Okay, welcome everyone who's tuned in. We're grateful and glad. I don't know, glad, grateful. I kind of smushed those together. Let's get all these mistakes out of the way early, Terry.
We're gladful.
We're glad. There you go. It takes a man with a journalism degree to work that one out. Um, so what I was trying to say was, we're glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in. This is another Equipment Zone training webinar. And whether you're brand new to all of this or an existing customer or longtime customer, or just curious, this is a topic that I think is going to pay big dividends. Gladly, I am sharing all of my wisdom through Terry Combs. Terry, you are the expert. You are the DTG man, the man with the plan. How are you, Terry?
I'm great, Jay. Looking forward to talking to everybody about our subject today.
Yeah, it was so fun to see this title come out. I know you've been working on this this year. You've presented this session at a couple of different trade shows. So I fell in love with the title. I mean, it speaks to me, Terry. It speaks to me on many levels, a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of humor, but at the same point, and at the same time, it's a topic that's really critical. As you and I know, many are on the path to figuring out, should we add a DTG printer into our, into our store, into our shop, into our lives, etc. And so the title is quite catchy. Let me share my screen again, and so I can get back to it. This is pretty great. This was at the GPX Graphics Pro Expo in Indianapolis. That was the last place that you had shared this session.
Correct. Just 2 weeks ago.
It's hard to believe it's only been 2 weeks already, but the title was "Everything You See on the Internet About DTG Printing is Wrong," or "Everything You See About DTG Printing on the Internet is Wrong." And then you so eloquently and wisely modified that with one little word, didn't you?
I did. You know, when I presented this in Long Beach, California, somebody raised their hand and said, "But you're on the internet." And I said, well, then I need to add a slide that says almost everything you see on the internet about DTG printing is wrong. So I popped in a second slide for our presentation in Indianapolis.
It works. It works. And so today we will be talking with the man with the smirk. Almost everything you see on the internet about DTG printing is wrong. And, we're kind of kidding about this, but Terry, the reality is there is a lot of misinformation, should we say, or I would like to think maybe there's two buckets. There's kind of old information that's still there because, as you know, everything on the internet lives forever on the internet. And so some of the things people said, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's just completely not true anymore. But then there's kind of like misinformation. I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but what do you think?
Well, exactly right. I think that most of it is not on the internet because somebody is intentionally trying to misinform you. It's just that, well, there's a few different reasons, but the problem comes when you don't know anything about this subject. So you don't know how to weed through it to figure out,
that's right.
Well, this is good information, this is bad information. To you, it's all just information. So there's a few different reasons I think that you see this. Obviously, they're the keyboard warriors who they just want to be an expert on every subject. So you throw up a simple question, and without coming back and saying, well, tell me about this and tell me how you're doing that and tell me how you're doing this. Boom, there's their answer. Here's what you're doing wrong, without any further information than my print doesn't look right. What do you think? So
right. Yeah, no context, no supporting information. Nobody's addressing the variables, and there are many that could have led to that issue.
Exactly right. And so there's the I want to be an expert on this side. On the other side is there are people, many people on the internet that have an ulterior motive. I want to steer you toward the machine that I build and the machine that I sell or the machine that I use. I want to steer you that direction. So all my answers are going to be shaded towards that and going to maybe shade a little bit away from any competitor and so give you the high points of what I can do over here, give you the low points of what the competitor does over there. So and those are a couple of the options, and really, Jay, a lot of it is BandAids.
BandAids. What are you talking?
Yeah,
BandAids.
A BandAid, exactly right. I figured out a workaround rather than figuring out what I'm doing wrong. And here's my workaround. Here's what I figured out to make this work,
Oh,
because I was having a problem. And so I went and figured out how to maybe take 3 extra steps to make it work, rather than, and this is true of all garment decorating, you need to take a step back and, what did I do at the start of this process that's causing this issue down towards the end of this
mhm.
process? So it's a Band-Aid.
Well, you've probably seen that, Terry, through your career in production, both on the screen printing side as well as now with
Sure.
DTG printing. So I think it's really wise. I really like the way you're framing that. It's not, they're not trying to mislead people. They're just saying, this is what worked for me. And even maybe in excitement, in their
Right.
exuberance to say, I got it, I figured it out. But truly they didn't source the problem or fix the problem. And so therefore, what worked for them may not be working for me. So,
Right.
man,
Right.
that
Exactly
Band-Aid
right.
issue, I think is a
They're
big one.
honestly trying to help, but
Right,
with misinformation.
right. Well, that's good. Well, why don't we talk about that? So can you give us an example? What would be a common Band-Aid that you've heard or that we hear about on a regular basis?
Okay, yeah. One of them that I've heard many times was, after pre-treating a shirt, whether you're using a hand sprayer or an automatic pre-treat machine or a variety of other ways you pre-treat, taking a paintbrush or a paint roller to evenly distribute that pre-treat solution on the shirt.
Mm,
Well, if it's not even to start with, that we're using a paintbrush or a paint roller is a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid for poor pre-treatment application in the first place.
gotcha.
You should be able to pre-treat a shirt, either again by hand or preferably with an automatic pre-treat machine, so that that pre-treat is perfectly even on that garment from the start, no extra steps. And Jay, I've seen it all: the paintbrush, the paint roller, a piece of plexiglass dragging it back and forth, a squeegee from screen printing dragging it back and forth. All
Whoa.
those things are Band-Aids, because in the end you shouldn't have to do any of those things to get a properly pre-treated shirt.
Have not heard of the squeegee or seen it, but now that you say it, I could see why. I could see someone trying to lay
Yeah.
down more pre-treatment or try to somehow even it. So yeah, that's really that's a good one. And it's tough. And I feel bad for the people that find that information and think that's how the process works. It's almost like you're making it worse. How do you politely say that?
Jay, and as you mentioned, I not only do seminars and classes on DTG, but I've been teaching screen printing classes for years. And over the past 5-6 years, there's always hands going up saying, on the internet they say to do it like this, and on the internet they say to do it like that, and it's the same story. If me, as an experienced screen printer, I can go to the internet and learn something about printing with silicone ink and think, okay, I already know the process. I know how this works. So I can tell if that person knows what they're talking about or if they don't know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
But somebody new for instance, direct to garment printing, maybe you are a screen printer, maybe you are an embroiderer, maybe you do HTV, but you're new direct to garment. It's very difficult to sort through the good from the bad.
No, that's great perspective. And it comes with wisdom, it comes with research, and hopefully it comes with finding the source. And I would like to consider ourselves and nominate you as someone who's been willing to bring that forward from the training perspective and from the value perspective first. Let's be clear. We do have an ulterior motive. We are in
Sure.
business to sell printers. We're not hiding that. We are very proud of the fact that we have selected Epson as our only line. We're not trying to sell you an HP printer over here and then a Tajima embroidery machine over there and then a Suma cutter over here. And we're pretty focused and we're okay with that and we're proud of that. And yes, at the end of the day, we would like to earn your trust and ask for your business. But we know, right, Terry, because we've been through this so many times with so many folks, that without the correct information,
Yeah.
you could seriously regret this investment. Am I being too bold or?
Oh, exactly right. And Jay, I think that you and I both come from the perspective of, we are educators first,
Mhm.
and then we are selling equipment and supplies and things like that. But But I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Well, no, just that we have this little, I call it, call it a good heart, right? I don't know, call it perspective, call it, we don't want to see people make a mistake and purchase
Right.
something that's an investment that they regret, and then they associate that with us.
Well, Jay, and yes, we sell the Epson F2100, the Epson F3070. We sell the sublimation printers and some of the other Epson products. And how often have we talked to somebody at a trade show who says, "Oh yeah, I've got an Epson 2100. It's a paperweight. I tried to use it twice, and it's been sitting in the corner of my shop for the last 6 months." Well, our customers who get properly trained have been making money with that printer for the last 6 months, probably paid it off in the last 6 months. So, the perspective is it's not necessarily just the equipment you buy. It's what comes with that equipment. Am I trained in this field? And Jay, there are very few people in the industry who know direct to garment printing on day one, because it's not like embroidery, it's not like screen printing where I could run an ad and get somebody to come in and run an embroidery machine tomorrow, and they might have 20 years experience running an embroidery machine. Direct to garment printing is too new for that. There aren't people who answer ads and say, "Oh yeah, I've got vast experience running direct to garment." So so training and education and follow-up support is critical to anybody that gets involved in this marketplace.
I 100% agree. I love the fact that you've transitioned us into this training and training questions, training ideas, support, service after the sale. Again, we do pride ourselves on that. We feel like we have, I say this confidently, that we have the largest training and tech support team in the industry, second only to Epson. And so that matters to me in marketing. I know it matters to you in sales and training, because that's what happens after the sale. Anyone can sell the printer. There are many dealers that have the same equipment and sell it for the same price. So at some point it comes down to, do they like us, and do they trust us, and do we give them great value and service after the sale? But
exactly.
The transition is to this idea of training. And I've heard you several times in training. I heard you say it again in Indianapolis, which I love, was this magic button theory. What is the magic button theory, Terry? If there's just one magic button and then money pops out the other side, is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about, the magic button on your DTG printer. And Jay, you've seen me many times. We'll have a DTG printer up in the front of the classroom, and I'll say, well, let me just show everybody where the magic button is. And I go like I'm going to push a button on the machine, and people in the back are like craning to see where the magic button is, and then there isn't one. There's no magic to this.
What? You would do that to people, Terry Combs?
Well, it's funny, when I early on when I was doing direct to garment classes, when I talk in screen printing classes about business marketing, the whole process, people are taking notes. And when I start talking about things like that in direct to garment classes, they're on their phones waiting for the next part of the class. And I think that's our fault, by the way, our fault, you, me, everybody at Equipment Zone, and everybody at all the other resellers and manufacturers, because when you walk onto a trade show floor, and people are coming back to trade show floors, and you walk up to our booth and we hit a button and out comes this beautiful print, your eyes turn into dollar signs and say, that was like magic. I'm going to be a millionaire by Thursday because of this. And so we make it look very, very simple, and it's not complicated, but we make it look very easy. But yes, we're using the absolute best 300 DPI file. We're using the absolute best ring spun cotton shirts for printing on. We are expert at pre-treating shirts. That print is going to look fabulous. Even if you bring your own file, that print's going to look fabulous. But there is a learning curve to it. And Jay, I wanted to bring something else up too. Vendors will say things to you, and don't get me wrong, most vendors are very honest and straightforward with you, but there's some out there. I had someone call me and say, well, I bought this machine because the salesman said I could import a 72 DPI file and the machine will fix it and make a perfect print. And I said, my response was, did you really believe that? And he goes, Terry, I wanted to believe it.
Of
Needless
course,
to
we
say,
all want to believe that.
needless to say, he returned that machine and now is a very happy Epson F2100 user. But you
Why
know,
would
Jay,
someone say that?
I
That's
know.
bananas.
It was it made me smile when he said it though, and when he confessed that no, I didn't really believe it, but I just wanted to so badly because I
Classic.
have so many bad files from my customers.
Well, and I know that's not unique to DTG printing, but yes,
Right.
there is this issue called the source artwork, and all of us are familiar with that. So well, that does that help us? Does that help us with the magic button, or does
Well,
that
yes and no. Let me say this. Again, I'm going to refer back and apologize for referring back to screen printing, but in my classes, it's a 2-day class, and I tell people you can go home and print shirts, but to be an expert screen printer, because there's so many variables and specialty inks and ink and screen meshes and things like that. That the learning curve is about 3 years to become an expert screen printer. The learning curve for DTG is 30 to 90 days and
Wow.
probably more towards 30. And the reason being, once you have the artwork right, the process of DTG printing is exactly the same over and over and over again. I have my buddy Hawkeye always kids me because in the video I was saying it's the same from shirt to shirt to shirt to shirt. So every time I see him at a trade show, he goes shirt to shirt to shirt.
Is that where that smirk comes from, Terry?
It does. That's where my smirk comes from. Exactly right.
Well,
Shirt to shirt to shirt.
Well, what people may not know is we've actually already covered 2 of our quick questions, which was I was asking you these, why do you think there's so much misinformation, the Band-Aid and then the magic button. But as we move through these, what I wanted to know too, as I'm trying to guide this around a little bit, is this concept of I need the info. And I've seen that you have prepared concentrated questions, a list of questions, like here's what you should ask before you buy a DTG printer. We did that webinar about 4 or 5 months ago, give or take.
Right.
And maybe Tim, if you're listening, you could drop a link into the chat so people can be aware of that. I'll have it on this next slide too, coming up, but that's a lot, 8 questions. So I'm not sure if it's fair for me to say, well, hey, Terry, well, why don't you just boil it? What's one question? Could you just give me the number one question or the most important question? But I don't want to paint you into the corner, but I think in the interest of time, maybe you could just share one that really strikes to your heart and helps demystify. Because I've been calling you, I've been pitching you the myth buster for the lead up to this.
Jay, so basically what we're talking about is 8 questions to ask at a trade show or on the phone when you're talking to somebody about buying direct-to-garment printing equipment. So my first answer is no, you really need to ask all 8 questions. But if you're going to paint me in a corner, I'm gonna choose the first question I have on my list of 8 questions. Is your machine purpose-built, or is it a converted desktop paper printer? And I think that people are probably not aware. Early on, all of these DTG printers, all of them were converted over paper printers. Today, there are still converted over paper printers. They are purchased off the shelf. They take the shelf, throw it away, take the printer, and put it inside of a direct-to-garment printer and sell it to you for $20,000. And it started life as a $400 or $500 desktop printer. So when you see things like you must run this printer every day, you must flush out the ink if you're not going to use it for more than take 3 days off. You must run it 24 hours a day. Hocus pocus, like wet capping station. Wet capping station is sold as a benefit. You know what it really is? We have to sit this print head in cleaning solution, or it will clog up immediately. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
that doesn't sound like a benefit. That sounds like
exactly. But everybody can kind of twist and turn things around.
Okay.
But we sell a machine. The Epson printers are built from the ground up as direct-to-garment printers, which means yes, I can turn it off and come back 2 weeks later and turn it back on. I turn it off every night. If I'm taking Memorial Day weekend off, I don't have to worry 1 second about that printer. So yes, find out what that printer was on the day it was born. Was it a direct-to-garment printer, or was it a full color desktop
I,
printer that I could buy at Staples? So
I would venture a guess. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but I would guess that there are some manufacturers who would not like people to ask them that question. Is that fair? Would you?
exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly
I
right.
mean, we're not trying to, if we're taking the true path of trying to avoid, a regrettable situation, that's why I love that that's your first question, because it immediately says, okay, as far as I know, there are two camps then. That's the divide. So let's start with that, which is that first question. What was it, a purpose-built printer or not? So, whew,
Yeah.
glad to say, Terry, we don't have that problem.
Exactly. And I do have a close second though. What kind of
Oh,
training will you provide?
of course you have a
It's
close
important.
second. No, no, no. But that is critical. Tell me
Training is
more.
critical. Training, but all 8 questions. Go back and listen to that if you haven't already heard it before.
I
So
think that would be wise, and people will. And thank you, Tim, for dropping the link in the chat. And I do have it on an upcoming slide here so that people can see that. So question number 5, as we round this session together here, we're about 20 minutes in. Thinking about the things that, it's so engaging for me. It's so interesting for me. You don't know this, Terry, but I'm constantly watching and listening to you and Tim and Roy and others on our team at a training event or a sales event, because I'm listening to what you're saying, and it's so cool the way you position things. And this one stood out to me in Indianapolis because you started talking about the environment, and I was like, this needs to be in the forefront. This is what I call proper expectations, under the
right.
umbrella of setting proper expectations. And I don't know, and I would guess many other vendors don't have this discussion, but you do. Tell me why. Tell me why you're always talking about, this is before people buy. You're still talking about, well, let's talk about the environment for just a minute. What's up with that?
Well, Jay, and you and I've often talked about this here in these webinars and other podcasts and things that you and I have done together, that we want you to be successful. And in this situation, if you don't have the proper environment, you're not going to be successful, no matter whose machine you buy. And when we talk about misinformation, Jay, I think this isn't necessarily misinformation. It's a lie of omission that someone, a customer says, well, yeah, I'm going to put this in my garage and I live in Tucson, Arizona. Immediately the salesperson should say, so is your garage environmentally controlled? Because if it's not, you are going to have issues. So, and when we talk about environment, we'll have people say, well, nobody told me about that. Nobody
Right,
told me I needed to
right.
worry about what environment I'm in. And it's simple, Jay. Here's the environment. Office environment, comfortable for you and the machine. I'm talking about temperatures in the 70s, 80s, max. Once you get below 32 degrees, it's waterproof, based ink. It's going to freeze. It's going to ruin
Yeah.
your machine.
You can't go
And
below.
95 and up, it's going to be an issue of overheating that ink and causing clogging issues. So if you're comfortable in the room, then the machine's comfortable. And most important, 40+% humidity. And that is true of every direct-to-garment machine on the market. It doesn't matter what you buy, you have to have 40+% humidity. Why? It's water-based ink. And Jay, when I go on the internet and look for examples of really, really bad information, one
That's
of the
called
things
research. You're doing
yeah,
research,
I'm doing
right?
research. One of the things that you'll see people say is, well, I don't have the proper humidity, but I don't have clogging issues, so I'm okay. Then the next thing you see is, but boy, I wish my machine wouldn't do these automatic head cleanings every hour or every 45 minutes. Guess what? It's your humidity. That you do have a problem. Just because you don't have clogging doesn't mean you don't have a humidity issue, because if the humidity is below 40%, in your shop, then your DTG printer will start to overheat. The print head will literally overheat. And what happens when a print head overheats is it needs to be cooled down. How do you cool it? You force water through it. Where's the water come from? Your water-based sink. So every time that printer stops to do an automatic head cleaning, other than every 5 or 6 hours, if you're doing automatic head cleanings every hour or so, that means that that print head is overheating and it's pumping ink through that print head right into your waste tank, and that's dollars going down the drain. So you really have to have 40+% humidity, and it doesn't matter where you are. You can do that. Our showroom in Tempe, Arizona, we have an average of 10% humidity. We run one humidifier in the room there, and it keeps it in perfect working order. So, you know, Jay, when somebody comes up to me at a trade show and says, well, no, I'm going to put my my DTG printer that I'm about to buy from you in my uncontrolled environment warehouse, I tell them, listen, don't buy that machine. Don't buy this machine or any machine. You will only have problems with it if you cannot control the environment. And hey, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from buying the equipment, because it's going to be hugely beneficial to your business. But it's not just buying the machine. You have to have it in a proper environment. And if anybody tells you that, well, our machine doesn't need that, they're not telling you the truth. Every direct-to-garment machine on the market needs to be in office type temperature and needs to be 40+% humidity. There's no going around it.
I love that. So the follow-up question to that, as Michelle has asked in the chat, is also, well, is there a place where you have too much humidity where the printer won't operate? Because, you know, I live in, you know, Shreveport, Mississippi, and it's going to be 90+% humid this July.
Or across the border there in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Either one.
Either Shreveport. You know, a lot of people say, well, no, you can't have more than 60 or 70. That's not really an issue with the machine. It's an issue with your garments. And there's a way around it. I mean, and all garment decorators who have to have heat as part of their process are going to run into issues like that. Our friend Dane Clement in New Orleans, he probably every day has 90% humidity. So, and yes, he runs an Epson direct-to-garment printer. But so what do you have to do? If your garments come in bagged, leave them in bags until you're ready to use them. If you are getting ready to print on your DTG printer, you have your garments all pre-treated, hit it with your heat press for 5 or 10 seconds to drive the moisture off. So the point being is, if there's moisture in that garment, it's not going to get to proper curing temperature when you print the shirt. It will look like it's cured, but you're going to have washing issues. So there's no maximum for the DTG printer. The maximum is for your garments. And so you have to take steps to make sure you get the moisture out of that garment before you print it. So
kids, that's why he's the DTG expert. That's why he's the man, because you know what? That's a fabulous answer. It's all about the environment. And sometimes that humidity, which isn't going to affect the printer at a high rate, but it is going to affect other components and other variables. And so often we fail to remember that, or we don't know that. And so I'm grateful for our tech team, top to bottom, everybody here in Arizona and in New Jersey. And you as well, Terry, for giving us this information. It's
well, many years on the production floor, Jay, just like yourself, and so you have to look at the big picture and all these things. There's no one little simple 2-sentence answer on the internet to every situation you run into. There's lots more information that you have to gather to then respond and give a proper answer on how to achieve a fairly simple task. In the end, we're just printing t-shirts. Nobody died, Jay.
And thank goodness that this industry exists. The island of misfit toys has accepted me. I choose to be here and I will not leave. But the reality is that there is a formula, and there are some variables in the formula. So my formula in Tempe, Arizona might be slightly different than somebody in Florida or Texas, et cetera. But we have the information to know how to handle that. Moisture being one of them. If those shirts, which are sitting out, are just like little sponges sucking up all that humidity, that could set us off on a tangent that we didn't plan for and create misprints. We know that.
Jake, could I add one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
You get your environment perfect, but you're in Minneapolis. Well, guess what? come October, when you kick the heat on, the humidity level is going to drop.
Yeah,
And
it
so
will.
then you probably need a humidifier in your shop. So you buy a hygrometer. From Amazon or most anywhere, they're about $10. And you sit it up in your shop next to your printer, and it will tell you what your humidity level is right now and probably for the past 24 hours. Just have it sitting there. And if it goes below 40%, then you need to take action with your printer. And don't get me wrong, because we always tell people you can do events. Yes, you can take that printer out of its environment, go to do the art show under a tent, just get it back into its proper environment as quickly as you can. But you'll be able to do, and not all machines can be taken to events, but the F2100 can be. So yes, you can take it out of its perfect environment, run it for a day, but get it back and get it back into the controlled environment again as quickly as you can.
That's great. More wisdom from the man, the myth, the legend, the OG of DTG, Terry Combs. Terry, we've got one more question before we wrap up. Do you think, this is just my observation, but do you think that the subject of pre-treatment is one of the things that creates the most amount of misinformation that we see on the internet? What is your feeling about?
I think it's probably, it's certainly, if not the top, one of the top 2 or 3 misinformation parts of the internet. And it's 2 things, Jay. First of all, pre-treating the shirt has a huge impact on the final product, a huge impact. But the other side of that is many resellers and online pundits don't emphasize the importance of pre-treating enough. It's just, okay, pre-treat your shirt. Now let's get over here to the printer and get a great print. So again, it's a misinformation by omission more than anything. So, proper pre-treating is a key variable in the DTG process, and you've got to get it right. It's not complicated, because, in webinars and seminars, I'll talk about, too little pre-treat and your print's going to be dull, too much pre-treat, and you could potentially have a washout issue because you're printing on top of pre-treat rather than on the garment. It's a pretty good window there. It's not something to worry a lot about, but like any other type of decoration method, do some experimenting. Do this amount of pre-treat and a little bit more pre-treat and a little bit more pre-treat. And Jay, we get well, how many grams of pre-treat do you recommend for the 10 by 12 image?
And well, hold on. So that's a fair question, but sadly, it's not an appropriate question, right? Because
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I giggle when I hear it, because I'm like, I understand why you're asking. However,
yeah,
you don't understand that there could be a trap door that you're on top of when you ask.
Right, exactly, because company XYZ over here is saying, well, our pre-treat machine will apply so many grams of pre-treat to the shirt. Well, that's all well and good, as long as it's the exact same shirt that you guys use to do your initial test, because depending on the garment's going to determine how much pre-treat, not telling that machine that you need so many grams of pre-treat on the shirt. A perfect ring spun cotton t-shirt with a really tight weave, it's going to take less pre-treat than a Gildan ultra cotton shirt, because that shirt has lots of little nooks and crannies, and it takes more pre-treat, and probably 2 coats of pre-treat. A hoodie is going to take a different amount of pre-treat. So, I always tell people, listen, I'm a production guy. On the front of my speed treater, I'm probably going to have a post-it note that says, this brand shirt, here's my setting. This brand shirt, here's my setting. This brand shirt, here's my setting, and have 4 or 5 settings there. And yes, every time you get a new garment in, you have to do some testing to make sure that you have the pre-treat just right. It's the nature of the beast. Anything properly done, you have to do some testing and find out the ideal scenario in your particular shop, your particular environment.
And I think by doing that testing, it breeds confidence in your system, in your formula, and you understand these variables. And to mix these two together, going back just a second about the environment, going back to humidity, and going to pre-treatment. If you live in a place where the humidity is 90% and your shirts are just soaking up all that moisture, and you don't try to express some of that moisture, then you go to your grams and you over pre-treat it. You've got too much moisture in the shirt with too much pre-treat, and your prints look like, I don't know what to say. They look like poop. They, they don't work because the ink is literally, it's like swimming in solution and in
Right.
humidity. So,
And Jay, all these things, an article I wrote a couple of years ago, and I mentioned it in other webinars. Why don't my shirts look like the trade show shirts? Well, there's all these different variables that you need to address. There's no, well, as some companies say, just put the shirt in and push the button. That's all you need to do. That's not all you need to do. It's
well,
not complicated, but there's certain steps you need to take to make sure that you get that ideal, bright image that washes beautifully. So
yeah, it's well, I think I set you up a little bit with this pre-treatment question, because we do field a lot of these types of questions, even though we are a manufacturer and we make the Speed Treater TX, and this isn't a commercial for that product. But what it means is that we are very aware, we are very in tune, we are very knowledgeable about the subject, Terry, and across the board at Equipment Zone, because we have to be, because we manufacture a speed treater, and we were one of the first to do it and make an automatic pre-treatment machine. And so we're pretty proud of that. But the reality is that you touched on it. In fact, you hit it perfectly. You said this variable, it's like pieces of the puzzle. And if you can't get that first foundational piece set correctly, the others are all off a little bit. And the next thing you know, you're completely off target, you know. And as everybody knows, if I'm flying a jet plane, I only have to be off by like 0.5%, 0.5 degree. And I'm, instead of flying to Minneapolis, I'm going to end up in Georgia. So
right, exactly.
we want to get all of these little details down. And I love the way you've presented it. And thank you for sharing that on pre-treatment. Proper pre-treatment is key.
And one more thing, most people use too much pre-treat. I'll just tell you that it's a fact. Most people use too much.
Yeah, they're afraid of it's true. And we try to avoid that with training and with support and with practice. And so thank you for bringing that up, because we could blah, 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 blah all day long. You and I both know that we have the gift of gab, but the reality is we're pretty quick to remind people to take some ownership in this, and to gently remind them, you have the responsibility. And you already brought this up. You need to test, you need to practice, you need to gain that confidence so that you're aware of these variables and you can avoid misprints. Our goal, honestly, is to see you succeed. We have thousands of customers that are successful. They've paid off their printers. They've bought second and third and fourth printers. These printers are making them, I don't want to say wealthy, but they have a strong cash flow. Okay. And so we're proud of that. We're excited when we get that feedback, and it's often. So why would printers that are purchased from us somehow excel when the exact same printer from a different dealer, and they're giving you the story, well, Terry, that printer didn't work. You know, it's
well, you're exactly right. I remember talking to someone a while back. They were talking about buying a pre-treat machine, and I said, what kind of printer do you have? Well, I'm still shopping, but obviously I'm not going to buy an Epson. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, I got a sample and the print looked horrible. I got a sample from a different dealer. And I said, well, would it be okay if I just send you a sample from us? And they're like, well, yeah, okay. And then the phone call back was, oh, this print looks entirely different. This print looks perfect. This is what I'm looking for. So, you know, it's the same equipment, but you also have to know what you're doing. You have to experiment. You have to test. You have to learn the proper way to do all these steps.
Well, in summary, Terry, that really takes us home. So learning these steps and training like this, we thank you for your time, trying to avoid the misinformation, being careful of the Band-Aids, recognizing that there really isn't a magic button. It's called work. It's a 4-letter word. Roll up your sleeves, test, practice, you know, master your craft. Learn those 8 questions. For those of you that you've just tuned in, this is your first time with Equipment Zone. Maybe you don't know that Terry's the OG of DTG. Listen, these 8 questions that are going to help you avoid challenges and future problems. We'd love it if you could download that list, watch that video. But ultimately, your environment is critical. And yes, we are big fans of proper pre-treatment. So that's really what we talked about here today. I hope that wasn't too fast of a summary. But what I also want to share is this next slide, which is that webinar we referenced. Ask these 8 questions before you buy a DTG printer. And there you can see at the top if you want to take a picture with your phone or if you want to quickly write that down. That's the actual, we do have a YouTube channel. We are pretty proud of it. We'd love it if you could subscribe. Terry, as you know, we have now more than 100 DTG specific training videos, 95% of which have training components or are full-on training. In other words, it's not just a hidden sales pitch.
Correct.
So that's a big deal. That's an indicator that we're serious about this topic and we want to earn your trust. Unless you have anything else, Terry, before I wrap up, I just want to say thanks again. If there's more to this, or if there's more that you want to say, now's the time, my friend.
Well, again, thanks for everybody tuning in. That was a 90-minute seminar that we did that just got compressed to about 30. So there's a lot more information there on our YouTube channel, and very specific things as well, that if you're looking for answers to certain questions. And please reach out to us if there's anything that we can do to help you be successful in your business.
I love that. And let's close with that, because there are folks that tune in that did not buy their printers from us, that are still kind of stuck or feeling like they're missing a piece. And listen, reach out to us. Go to our website, as Tim has put in the chat, and you can see that there's a tech support a link. Hit that link, start with a tech ticket, and we'll see what we can do to help you. Even because, and if you didn't purchase that printer from us, we want to earn your trust, earn your business, and help you have some success. So that's really it. As you can see, you can find us on the web. You can reach out to Terry or Amy or Tim. Those are really their emails. They would love to continue this conversation or find out where you are in the journey of purchasing your next DTG printer. And my name is Jay, and that guy's Terry. And thank you, Tim, and everyone else at Equipment Zone for all of the help and the support. We hope to see you soon, now that we are beginning to do in-person events again. And in the meantime, you're welcome to go visit us at our website, equipmentzone.com. That's all I've got. Take care for now. Bye, Terry.
Bye, everyone.